All right, everybody, we're live right here, boy. I got nothing but wisdom and knowledge next to me. I got Reverend Dixon, and I'm gonna let him go out first because we in his church, and this church is called the Greater New Hope Missionary Baptist Church. And where are we located, Pastor?
In Studewood. This is really the Independence Heights, but it's better known as Studewood, right down the street from Booker T. Washington High School.
Now, you being a part of Jack Gates, tell us, did you go to Jack Gates?
Yes, sir, I went to Jack Gates.
What year did you come out of Jack Gates?
I came out of Jack Gates in 1958.
Okay, tell us about the time that you came out of Jack Gates and how did you get started in the ministry, and do you also work with HISD before too?
I came out of Jack Gates in 1958, and I went to Texas Southern University on a football track scholarship. Ended up running track. Stayed there for a few years and got in some trouble and got put out of school. But the grace of God allowed me to be drafted into the Army, went into the Army, had an opportunity to play football.
Okay.
In Germany. Played all over.
Now, when you got out of the service, did you go into, how did you get started with, did you work for HISD before?
Came back from the Army and went back to TSU. Finished school, got 3 degrees in the process.
Wow.
But in the meantime, my first job after I finished school in 1967, I went to Freeport to work. I worked in the Freeport Brazosport Independent School District for 1 year and came back to HISD the following year, which was 1969.
Okay, now how did you get started? Now, when you were with HISD, what were you doing? Was you was a teacher?
I was a teacher coach, and I stayed a teacher coach. I remained a teacher coach until 1979.
Okay, now when you came out of being in the with HISD, you was in the athletic department with HISD?
My last job I was.
Okay.
But
the last job you had with HISD?
Was with, I was a director of athletics.
Okay.
I was the director of Barnett Stadium for the last 10 years of my career.
Okay, now, next to you, tell me, Reverend Dixon, because I've been knowing you all my life.
All right.
But I'm in the house of the Lord, so I got to give you your respect as Reverend Dixon.
Thank you so much.
Now, Reverend Dixon, now I ain't got to get this man next to you. Even though he was like my big brother and raised me as a little baby, Mr. James Tignor.
That's what I heard him say, he raised you.
Yeah, he raised me.
But,
and taught me what I know. Now let Mr. James Tignor talk about it. Because all of y'all got nothing, and right here, I got a man here, TEA.
But listen. Mr. Tignor ain't gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell you. What I'm going to tell you is that he was one of the finest linebackers in HISD history. He was a super athlete.
Now, now let me ask you this, Mr. James Tignor. Jack Gates class of what?
1956.
Speak up.
1956.
Now you can tell they're good friends. That's the reason. This ain't nothing but love, a cousin, the family. We're all family here at Jack Gates. And Mr. James Tignor, now your experience of leaving colleges and leaving Jack Gates in 1956 and graduating, what college did you graduate?
I went to Big Wiley College in Marshall, Texas.
You know what? Wiley College. A lot of young people might not know of Wiley College. Man, I'm having so much fun here, man. It's unreal here because all these guys are older than me. And a lot of people say, well, how you get all this history? Because I be around older guys like I'm around today. You know, Pastor Dixon, he finished Jack Gates in 1958. And I got my man here, Mr. James Tignor, who raised me up as a child. He finished in 1956. And over here, man, this is the last, man. You all know you always say the best for the last. Well, this is the best for the last. This is Mr. Ronnie Evans, and all of his family finished out of Jack Gates, but he came out of Worthing. And the reason why, because his family moved to Sunnyside. And during them days, a lot of people in the early 60s was moving out of Third Ward because of being overcrowded and moving to the new place they call Sunnyside. And Mr. Evans, we're going to talk to Mr. Evans, and Mr. Evans is part of what, TEA?
Well, I retired from HSD and then I went to work for Region 13 with TEA as a technical assistance provider.
All right, we're gonna get there and talk to Mr. Evans. But right now, we want to talk to Mr. James Tignor because you know you got a young man named Gary Monroe over there at Jack Yates. He always say good things about you, Mr. Tignor, and also Cullen. Tell us your experience of being a teacher and also being assistant principal at Cullen, and what did you do when you left Wiley College out of Marshall, Texas?
First of all, my first job was at Old Booker T. Washington. At that time, it was called Old Lockett. Mr. Moses, Coach Moses, is my coach at Jack Yates High School. He hired me, and I certainly do appreciate that. At Jack Yates, I played 4 years under the auspices of the only one coach I know is Coach Pat Patterson. After I finished Jack Yates, I went to Wiley College on a scholarship thanks to Coach Patterson. I played middle linebacker at Yates and at Wiley. After I finished Wiley, my first job was at Booker T. Washington, Old Lockett. And then from there, Coach Moses moved to Attucks, which was Worthing at that time.
And let me ask you this: was Attucks was just beginning to open up?
No,
Attucks had already been opened.
Attucks had already opened up to.
And they had already built the new Worthing over there on Reed Road.
Yeah, at the 62.
Right, okay.
Yeah, right. In order to relieve Yates, then they built the Worthing.
Okay, and now when you went to work over at Cullen, what year that you was assistant principal to Mr. Joe Martell?
Okay, let me bring. First of all, I left Attucks, which was Worthing, and then went over to Woodson as a track coach, football coach, and then eventually I was working at Worthing part-time as help track with Coach Brown. But let me make a long story short, I went over to Cullen as a counselor. I had a counselor degree, so
who was the principal at that time?
Joe Martell.
Okay.
So what happened was, by me, they didn't want me to leave from working with Worthing, so Mr. Norton was the mayor of Sunnyside at that time, so he told me that Coach Brown and all the staff wanted me to continue coaching. And I said, well, no, I can't do that because I'm working under Mr. Joe Martell. He told me, he said, you report back over here in Eden, I'll take care of that. And I did. That's not control. But to make a long story short, I worked at Cullen for almost 10 years.
As assistant principal?
As assistant principal.
And what happened then? After 10 years, did you retire?
No, then I got I went to Attucks.
So you worked at Attucks?
No, I worked at Attucks. And then I went to Albert Thomas.
Uh-huh.
I wrote a grant. I got a grant. I was for the ninth grade academy. I was the ninth grade academy was something that the kids needed real bad because we had a large number of kids who were 16, 17-year-old potential at-risk kids. And I wrote a grant, and then I was able enough to get that school. Daisy Morrow was nice enough to give me one of the floors in her building.
Okay,
and
now you go back and say Daisy Morrow.
Daisy Morrow was the principal that.
Okay, Daisy Morrow, is that the wife of Freddie Morrow and also Leroy Morrow, Jack Morrow? Is that
yes, that's his sister-in-law.
In fact, Freddie Morrow, I want to say this because there's a lot of young people out there that's looking at this.
Okay.
Now, Freddie, you say Daisy Morrow. Now, for some of you young people out there that go to Madison, Miss Morrow, her son, is the basketball coach of Madison High School now, Craig Morrow.
Craig, yeah.
Right. We want to give credit out to Craig because you've been knowing Craig ever since he was a kid.
That's right.
And you're saying about Daisy Morrow.
Yeah, Daisy.
And I wanted to make sure that Craig Morrow and he gets some respect from his mother in recognition from his dad, because his dad and mother are two heck of a good parents. Freddie and Daisy have raised a good son, and he's doing real good with Madison basketball program, Tignor. I just want to say that before we end up and go over here too, because we on a time limit. So I wanted to give a lot of respect to Mr. Craig Morrow, who's now the basketball coach of Madison High School. And Craig looks at a lot of my videos too, and that's why I want to give his credit, and his mother, which was Daisy Morrow. And Daisy was one of the first principals at Dick Dowling, if I'm not mistaken. She was the first black principal, because Dick Dowling was a white school.
That's right. That's right.
And when it integrated, and they had to have a black principal. That's right. And that's when Daisy Morrow was a principal there before she got to even go over there to Sterling.
But let me tell you this. And I'm going to be real quick.
Mm-hmm.
In HISD, they had what they call, you remember, Ronnie, and they had what they call nepotism, that you could not work with a member of your family at the same school.
Right.
So when she became principal of Dowling, then Leroy was the head basketball coach at Dowling. So
Leroy is her brother-in-law.
That's Joe's brother. So he had to leave because she had just gotten there. So I took him at Albert Thomas. I was assistant principal there. I took Leroy, and he became head basketball coach at Albert Thomas at that particular.
That's Leroy who? Leroy
Morrow.
Okay, now that's Daisy's brother-in-law, right?
That's Joe. That's right. That's Joe's.
Because see, the only thing that happened here is that Jack Yates was the grandfather of Worthing, because a lot of DNA. If you chase the DNA down out of Worthing and Madison, it's gonna come back to Jack Yates.
That's right.
Now, I don't care how you run it down. It might be the great-grandkids, whatever, grandparents, whatever it is, the DNA, if they lived on the south side, it came out of Jack Yates. And here's a prime man here, Mr. Evans, also retired at TEA. He went to Worthing, and he became principal. I'm going to let Mr. Evans talk about how he got started as far as HISD. Mr. Evans?
Yes, well, I'm a Worthing graduate, and I was drafted in the Army in 1967.
But now, how about all your relatives? Did they come out of Jack Yates?
My mother, my father, all of her 11 brothers and sisters.
All finished from where?
Yeah, all finished from Jack Yates.
And the only reason why you didn't, because y'all had moved to Sunnyside.
Right, and I did not want to get on the bus before day in the morning and ride to Third Ward. So me and my other two brothers, we went to Jack Yates. But my wife, my whole family, we all went to Jack Yates.
Now, when you finished Worthing, what year you come out to Worthing?
I finished Worthing in 64.
Okay, in 1964.
1964.
What year did David Latin come out?
Latin came out in 63.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That came out in
the time
63.
that Worthing won
State championship.
State basketball championship.
Right, but before then, in 1959, we were state champions in baseball.
Okay, that's good to know for all of us.
But then my principal was Alan Norton, and when I came back from Vietnam, Alan Norton hired me to teach math.
Over at Worthing?
At Worthing, he hired me to teach math.
Now, when you was at Worthing, how long was you there when Coach Tankersley was there, or was that Coach Tankersley had already left Worthing?
John Tankersley was my coach, the very first coach at Worthing High School.
Yeah, I say this to say this because I want to give a shout out. I got to do this myself. I want to give a shout out to his son, who is my best friend, John Larry Tankersley. Yeah, today is his birthday.
Say, all right. Happy birthday, John. Lil John.
Lil John Larry, man, this is nothing but love, man. I know you and Ireland and Rodney. I know y'all looked at these videos, but now I had to take it over from Mr. Evans. But Mr. Evans, tell us how did you get in TEA?
Well, and before that, John Tankersley Jr., Lil John came to me and told me, Ronnie said, nobody will give my daughter a shot. She was a heck of a softball player.
Oh, wow.
Nobody will give her a shot. No, I took her at Worthing.
Okay.
And she earned a full scholarship in softball.
John takes the daughter.
John Taker's the daughter. Yes, I forgot what college she went to, but then she did well and she graduated in 4 years.
Oh.
I do know that. Well,